Welcome to the public briefing for the Mississippi River Bridge South, Louisiana Highway 1 to Louisiana Highway 30 Connector Project, also referred to as MRB South. This project is being sponsored by the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development and is referenced as state and federal aid project number H013284. Today's briefing is intended to update you on the overall environmental review process under the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, and how this relates to the overall MRB Louisiana Highway 1 to Highway 30 project. Any project funded by a federal agency is subject to NEPA evaluation. This act was drafted and adopted by the U.S. Senate in 1969 and was signed into law by the President on January 1st of 1970. The Act created the Council on Environmental Quality, or CEQ, which provides regulations and guidance on how to proceed with each step in the NEPA process. The CEQ defines major federal actions to include adoption of official policy, that is, rules and regulations, adoption of formal plans, adoption of programs, and the approval of specific projects. Under the CEQ environmental review process, a federal, state, and/or local agency will review a project's impact on natural and human environments. The lead agency or main agency responsible for a proposed project has to ensure that the project results in increased public involvement and that its management and approval decisions are based upon all available information. NEPA requires federal agencies to evaluate environmental impacts of their proposed actions prior to making a decision under a federal action or jurisdiction. Therefore, a proposed project needs to adhere to applicable environmental goals, follow applicable policies, and enforce the appropriate mitigation measures, as required. There is also an established public process to gather and address comments and input from interested citizens and relevant agencies before any approval decision. If both of these outcomes are achieved, the desired effect is implementation of actions that best meet the agency's stated goals and objectives, with a lower probability of unintended consequences to all affected interests. Since NEPA review is related to projects funded under the various federal agencies, each agency may have its specific procedures for implementing NEPA. However, all agencies have to review a project's impacts to the surrounding natural and human or man-made environments. NEPA serves as the foundation of our environmental process for informed decision-making. The natural and the human, also known as the built or man-made environments, typically involve several factors. Different project locations, types, and size or lengths of a project may have various levels of impacts to these environments. The natural environment includes agricultural and timberlands, plant and animal species that make up the natural communities, wetlands, and other waters of the U.S. It includes cultural, archaeological, and paleontological resources that could be located either above or below ground, geology and soils, an area's topography and potential for seismic shifts, water quality, hydrology, wild and scenic river status, stormwater, floodplains, and coastal zones. The human environment is all of the areas that have been created by us upon our natural world. These built environments typically include an area's allowed land use and zoning requirements, the aesthetics and views within and around a site, historic resources such as cultural monuments, traffic, air quality and noise, hazards and waste, parks and other recreation facilities, public services such as police and fire services, schools, libraries, and post offices, among others, public utilities that include electric power, water, trash, and sewer services, landfills, telephone and internet services, as well as the project's consistency with all applicable state, regional, and local plans and programs. There are 3 levels of NEPA analysis. Categorical exclusions, or CADEXs. Environmental assessments, or EAs, which result in a finding of no significant impact, also known as a FONSI. And environmental impact statements, or EISs, which result in a record of decision or ROD. A categorical exclusion is not a waiver from NEPA review. It is a simplified version of environmental review for projects with minimal impacts. A CADEX has to fit within the type of actions determined by each federal agency. It has to determine that there are no extraordinary circumstances that would preclude the action from being excluded. The following items describe an environmental assessment, or EA. The lead agency, which is the responsible or funding agency, has to approve the start of NEPA. The EA process involves a scoping meeting to inform the public and appropriate agencies about the start and type of project. It is required to have a defined purpose for the proposed project as well as to identify the need for the project. An EA should identify potential alternatives and narrow these to all reasonable alternatives. Broad technical studies are prepared for all applicable issue areas. Concise reviews of the project's impacts on all environmental areas are completed. A draft EA describes all of these and also notes project impacts in relation to other ongoing projects and anticipated impacts to all reasonably foreseeable future projects. Once input has been received under public and agency reviews, a final EA document is prepared for final review and approval by the lead agency. Project approval requires the preparation and filing of a finding of no significant impact statement. Sometimes EA analysis may require further investigation as an environmental impact statement, or EIS, which follows the EA process for the review and preparation of draft and final documents. However, EIS reviews are more comprehensive than environmental assessments and typically take longer for background investigations, research document preparation, and reviews. The process is the same for public and agency review, so there is a similar draft and final EIS before the preparation and filing of the record of decision. This illustrates components of the NEPA process. Determination by the lead agency on the level of environmental review. Establish logical termini, the project boundaries. Identify the purpose and need for the project. Develop feasible alternatives. Analyze impacts of alternatives to the natural and built environment. Evaluate cumulative impacts. Select a preferred alternative. Develop mitigation measures. Provide notice and final decision. The NEPA process allows for early and ongoing public participation, coordination with relevant local, state, and federal agencies, and the preparation of appropriate technical analysis. It also allows for the analysis of all feasible alternatives as well as the no-build alternative, which is an evaluation of the consequences of not moving forward with the proposed project. This process allows the appropriate funding agencies to make informed decisions for preferred alternative selection. NEPA relies heavily on open documentation of the environmental review process, appropriate and required noticing for availability of review documents, and making a final decision on a project. In order to evaluate a proposed project's impacts to the natural environments, technical reports are typically prepared for biological and cultural resources, wetlands, water quality, geology, soils, traffic, air quality, and noise, hazardous materials, as well as the economic environment. Assessment of potential project impacts upon the natural environment includes the disciplines or specialties of biologists, chemists, soil scientists, geologists, engineers, environmental scientists, and allied professions. Assessment of potential project impacts upon the human environment includes the disciplines or specialties of anthropologists, archaeologists, engineers, architects, noise specialists, planners, public officials, and community representatives. Public involvement is a major part of the NEPA process. This can occur at different times, such as during project scoping, at the start of a project, at public meetings during project evaluations or technical analysis, and at public hearings before a final decision is made. All such public outreach and meetings are held at locations which are convenient and accessible to all. Typically, the public involvement process for a project involves a combination of presentations, video recordings, or broadcasts, and exhibits staffed by project representatives. Why do we have so many opportunities for public input? It is a required part of the NEPA process, and it allows for the public agency with project oversight to select the appropriate alternative, provide informed project approval, or recommend reasonable changes. What is the proposed project, MRB South? This project proposes the construction and maintenance of a new crossing of the Mississippi River between the Interstate 10 Bridge and the Louisiana Highway 70 or Sunshine Bridge. This is a needed transportation improvement project for the 5-parish area under the jurisdiction of the Capital Region Planning Commission, which is our Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. The anticipated schedule for this project's NEPA process started earlier this year with formal coordination with the Federal Highway Administration regarding the appropriate level of environmental review for the proposed project. Following this decision, the purpose and need for the project was finalized, as well as final definition of the logical termini, or the beginning and end points for the project. During preceding work, DOTD developed 32 possible alternatives for the project, which were narrowed down to 10 and then to 3 feasible alternatives. These 3 are being carried into the NEPA process along with a 4th alternative, which is the no-build alternative. Technical studies related to the 4 alternatives have been and are in the process of being prepared. The draft EA document is now being prepared. Before the EA is finalized, the public and relevant agencies will have opportunities to review and comment on the EA analysis before DOTD and the Federal Highway Administration make a final decision on the proposed project. FHWA has approved this environmental review to proceed as an environmental assessment, or EA. Following an appropriate screening process, DOTD narrowed the preliminary 32 alternatives to 20, then to 10, and now to 3 remaining final alternatives, which are advancing for further study in the draft EA. The project team is in the process of preparing and finalizing technical reports, as well as refining alternatives for public and agency reviews. We are also in the process of addressing Louisiana DOTD requests for right-of-way access and for refinements to bridge designs. Have the technical analyses begun? Yes. So far, we have held 6 open house events, conducted 14 meetings with project stakeholders, and provided 12 agency briefings. The Enhanced Planning Investigation, or EPI, as well as the Planning and Environmental Linkages, or PEL document, has been submitted. These include DOTD's Stage 0 report, which is the initial component of the state's project delivery process. The EPI and PEL documents are available on the project website mrbsouth.com. What are the next steps? We will prepare and then present the draft EA to the public and relevant agencies. We will finalize a preferred alternative. Comments will be incorporated to finalize the EA document and then present it to the public and agencies, all the while documenting the entire process. To conclude, a finding of no significant impact statement will be prepared. Technical analyses completed so far include surveys related to LIDAR, topography, subsurface utility engineering, or SUE, elevation, permitting, data analysis, bathymetric studies, and navigation studies have been completed. We have begun initial bridge design criteria and prepared draft line and grade studies. Our team has conducted cultural fieldwork and coordination with Native American tribes. All wetlands field work has been completed and the draft wetlands report has been prepared. And we've completed more technical analyses to date. The project team has completed geotechnical field work and borings, foundation analysis, and embankment analysis. Traffic data collection, including volume counts, have been completed, and build or no-build traffic models have been developed. A preliminary right-of-way assessment and toll analysis, including Level 1 and Level 2 studies, have been completed. Also, we've prepared a preliminary cost estimate and socioeconomic analysis for the alternatives. The Phase 1 ESA document is complete. What else needs to be done? We need to conduct agency coordination through a scoping meeting. This includes all local, state, and federal agencies with jurisdiction or interests within the overall project area. Remaining technical document preparation is required for the following topics: line and grade, bridge design, final cost estimates, hydrology studies, and a traffic study. Field surveys need to be conducted for biological resources, cultural resources, air, and noise impacts. All of this will be incorporated into the preparation of the environmental assessment, or EA document. When and how may the public provide comments? There will be more opportunities for public review and comment as we progress through the NEPA process. General comments may be submitted electronically anytime by sending your message to the email address info@mrbsouth.com. The project website mrbsouth.com offers a form for receiving typed comments on the contact page. DOTD anticipates a round of public meetings during the first half of 2026, providing opportunities for review and contributing feedback. We anticipate scheduling public hearings during the second half of 2026. Thank you for attending this public briefing for the Mississippi River Bridge, Louisiana Highway 1 to Louisiana Highway 30 Connector Project.